the next part of the life cycle, which is plan and set up the project, and then you begin working on the project, and then you're tracking, replanning the project. So an important part of this stage is that something a dear friend of mine calls procrastinating by over planning, creating beautiful plans, goals, and timelines, and never actually starting anything. Right? Plans without action, just self-soothing, right? It's a great first step, but it's not how things get done. I'm all about a plan, but when you start to idealize the plan, spending more time and focus on perfecting it than executing it, it's a problem. When you're not taking action on them, plans are just another way to procrastinate. So we only do just enough planning for the next stage. And then it's a constant reiteration as we work on the project. We learn, we make mistakes, we try things, and we continue to work on it and replan. So a key outcome of this stage is the project plan. Now, the project plan is simply a compilation of different documents, which we've already started going through. So the project canvas is one, which guides your steps in working on the project, tracking and replanning. Another point to remember at this stage is, this is a quote from the military, I believe, and no plan survives first contact with the enemy. Essentially, anybody who is attempting to accomplish a major project must be flexible, right? Planning is important, but adaptability is essential, because it's likely that you will learn things that will change the end outcome or the plan or whatever it is. And so, yes, we need to plan, but we need to do that in the knowledge that things are going to change and that we need to have that flexibility built in. So let's talk through some tools that we would incorporate into the project plan. So this is a timeline or task list. And I'm going to talk you through, I'm going to share with you the, this is essentially a project management workbook that you will have as part of this workshop. And it has, this is essentially a project plan, right? Everything incorporated this is in a project plan. We're going to walk through these tools. And the first one that I wanted to talk through is the delivery timeline and task list. Now, in terms of the template, this is just one template of many. If you search project management tools, free Excel, you will get hundreds and hundreds of results, and you can search through and find one that works for you. This is a very, very simple one that I use. So essentially, you have down here all of the activities and tasks. And if you look back at your project canvas, you would have already started brainstorming some of those actions, some of those things that need to be done, and they would essentially fill this section. And what I've done here is that often when it comes to the projects that I run, there's sort of an overarching activity, whether it's marketing or venue, and then there are loads of tasks that sit under it. And so I like to organize my timeline in that way. So I would have a task title and then all the tasks that sit under there. And as you can see in the template, you input the task group name and then all the tasks that sit under that. But you do not need to do it that way. It could just simply be a list of tasks in any order, and they are all of, there's no sort of titles. So you use this template in the way that makes sense for you. So in this example, I've got the event content schedule for the workshop. So I know that I need to research content, and then I would put in the description a bit more of a descriptor of what that means. So for me, that's look into competitor workshops and organizations and identify some key themes that I should be covering, explore the evaluation and topics identified as relevant from any research that I've done, And that owner is me. If I had a marketing person or I had a content person, I might put their name in there. And then this column here is essentially the status of each task. And if you click on the drop down here, you will get a copy of this status key. So there are 5 options: to do, if it's still yet on the to-do list, in progress, done, stuck, or cancelled. Okay, so cancelled is essentially something that is no longer relevant. It's not a task that is relevant. Stuck is there's something stopping it from moving forward. And when you see those reds, those are the ones that you're going to want to pay some attention to. So this one is done. I put the target start date, so ideally when I would have wanted to start it. So when I was planning for the workshop, I wanted to start this on the 12th of March and it would be finished on the 15th. And then here, so you've got the start date, the end date. And here I've got an actual date completed, because often the date that we set is not the date that it's actually completed. And we want to keep both of these in for planning for next time. So if we look, if we do this workshop again and I can see that actually we finished it, we completed it earlier, I will then know that how long it actually takes, and I can change, I can adapt the plan based on that the next time we do it. And in a similar way, you just run through all of the tasks. And this is for notes section, is any additional notes. Now, I want to show you this piece here purely as information purposes in case you come across this. This is what they call a Gantt chart. Gantt charts, you can get online versions that do this all for you, but Gantt charts are quite a key term used in project management, and so I want to share this with you in case the word comes up and you're a bit stumped. But you do not need to use this when you're creating your timeline. But essentially what you would do is a Gantt chart is simply a visual representation of the information you've got in here. So I've got all the months set up here, and then the week numbers, but you could have, you know, the week commencing dates on here, or you can have specific dates detailed. Different Gantt charts have different things. It depends how you would like it. But essentially it would be, when is the start date, which is 12th of March, which is this year was in week 3 of March, and it finishes in the same week. The same for this task, because it's only one day apart. It's all completed in that week. Whereas this task started on 12th of March, so you would highlight that in week 3, and it finishes on the 5th of April, which is week 1 in April. So you would highlight. So what it's highlighting is the period of time in which you're giving yourself to complete this task. And the idea, really, there's lots of reasons for using a Gantt chart, but one of the key ones is that when you're resource managing, you've got multiple sort of projects running, and you're managing lots of resources, you've got a real visual representation of when the peaks and the troughs are, so when the really busy periods are and when the quieter times are, so that you can make sure that you're resourcing those period of time more appropriately. As a project manager, it might be useful to you, because then you can see within 1 week, I've got 1, 2, 3 different tasks happening. Am I going to be able to do that in that week? It might be that I've identified that I've got holiday that week as well, which allows you to replan based on this visual sort of view of it. But you do not need to use a Gantt chart at all. Feel free to, you can highlight the Gantt chart section and hide it. You can delete it. I don't personally use Gantt charts. I don't find it useful. All I need is the information here to quickly run that off. But I wanted to share with you in case the term comes up and you needed to know what it is. But there is lots of software out there that does a lot of this online, and I can share some of those at the end of this workshop. What I'll do is I'll make sure on the web page that there are some There are some links to some online versions of these, which are really snazzy, some paid for, some free, that you can use. So the next tool we're looking at is a SWOT. So a SWOT is a tool that is useful for assessing a project before you begin or throughout, to bring awareness to how to optimize strengths and opportunities to your advantage, or minimize or mitigate weaknesses and threats as much as possible. Now, once you've identified your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, you want to consider how you can optimize or take advantage of strengths and opportunities, and how you can minimize or mitigate the weaknesses and threats. So let me show you this in the worksheets. So in each of these, in the project titles, you would essentially write your project title name. So SWOT here. Okay, so strengths. You would start with strengths, and you would think, what strengths do you have that will help you deliver this successfully? So what skills or resources or contacts do you already have in order to deliver this workshop, event, this fundraiser? So for me, it might be let me just add a K there. For this workshop that I ran, it was, my knowledge and existing content, which I have already. And we also had access to the venue's email marketing database with local contacts in the area. So that was a huge strength that we already had. A weakness is not having the funding to deliver it. It's a pilot event, so there's no word of mouth or evidence to use of its value. And then opportunities are, what opportunities could you explore and exploit? What is the vision and potential of this? So this is really about what could you use to your advantage? So for example, there is potential for us to attain government funding and run these workshops for free for participants, because there's a huge push at the moment to support mothers back into the workforce. Or there's potential to tap into NCT network, which is a network, which is a charity supporting new parents. There may be an avenue to sort of tap into their marketing pool, essentially. And then you'd look at threats. What are your biggest challenges? What are your constraints? What are your potential risks that you would need to consider? What could get in the way of your success? In what ways can you mitigate or minimize each risk? And some of these tools do overlap. So we did some of this already in the project canvas. But essentially here I've put, other local organizations or workshops delivering the same thing. There's a lack of funding and support, which means we might not get the traction. Your task now is to go back to the timeline or task list, whichever you call it, and the SWOT analysis, and run your practice project through the templates. Once you've completed those, you can move on to the next video. Catch you soon.